Thanks for coming back and welcome new friends to the In Between. This is the podcast where we share and talk about third culture and cross-culture experiences.
Today, we're going to talk about food culture and eating habits based on our experiences. So relax, grab your food, get comfortable, and itadakimasu. All right, we're back. So today we're going to be talking about food culture in places we've lived or traveled.
Yeah, I mean, talk about food. There is so much that we can talk about food, don't you think?
Oh man, I think the list is endless in this sense. We've been around enough to have tried various cuisines, interacted with different eating cultures from around the world, and I think we have a lot to share here.
Yeah, but I mean, talk about food. What did you have for lunch?
Lunch today? Well, I haven't had lunch yet, which is bad since it's already 3 o'clock, but I did have breakfast. I had leftover Mr. Donuts from yesterday and 3 eggs. Yeah.
Nice.
How about you?
I had, well, no offense, but stinky tofu.
Woo!
You know about that.
I know about that. That is some stinky stuff. People think,
but you ate it. But you tried it before.
It's good. You know, people think garlic breath is bad, but stinky tofu breath. Ouch.
Well, you know what is the worst? Well, not totally the worst in the world as people, rank it, but I know what is the worst for you.
The durian. Oh, man, don't remind me.
Yeah, do you remember that one time we went to Chinatown back in Honolulu and I bought a durian smoothie. And after I sipped the first time, and then blow my breath into your face.
It was one of my first encounters with durian, I think. And I was like, what is that smell? I was just there enjoying my vanilla strawberry smoothie,
something like that. Yeah, but durian smoothie was good. I mean, you gotta try it. I love durian, by the way.
Isn't it true that durian's banned from airports or something? Or at least to bring it in the plane with you, just because
I'm not too sure, but I'm not surprised.
Right? I just imagine someone breaks open a durian mid-flight as a snack. Generally prohibited anyway, but you can imagine if it was allowed. Woo! No good.
But are you allowed to bring fruits on the airplane before you land?
I know for Hawaii it's pretty strict bringing in foreign products, but if you're flying maybe domestic, it's generally okay. But I think even if it's domestic, some things are not allowed, and I think durian is one of them, just because the potential smell that it could cause in an enclosed cabin. There's no escape.
Oh man, but I love that smell though. By the way, I just love that smell. It smells bad, but when you eat it, it's a good taste. It's a weird texture for sure, but it's a good taste, just like stinky tofu. Cuisine delicacy.
One of these days, I'll give it a proper try again, and we'll see how it goes.
You should. Yeah. So, we're talking about food culture today and different variants of food in different places, especially where we've been. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, what do we think about this?
I think we need to maybe start narrowing it down on maybe a particular area. Let's see. When you sit down to eat, are there any unspoken rules that people just have to know, even if no one ever explains them? Maybe back in Taiwan, what's some rules you already kind of knew or didn't know upon returning?
I think a pretty obvious rule is that when you chew, you don't chew with the sound, But back then when I was a kid, I remember people don't slurp the noodle when they eat it. Now I think a lot of the local culture has been influenced by Japanese culture, so people start to accept to slurp the noodle when they eat ramen. I guess it's okay now, but still, after you slurp it and then you chew the noodle or chew all the foods or whatsoever, people try to be quiet when they chew.
Totally, I get you there. Even though I was still young, I was surprised with my first conscious experience of going to a ramen shop in Tokyo. I told my dad, I was like, why is it so noisy in here? Everyone's slurping up a storm. And, later finding out that, it's a sign of telling the chef, this tastes good,
Yeah.
So, and I make it a point now whenever I have noodles to just, let the chef know that I'm enjoying it, do a little bit of slurpage.
Yeah, that's actually what I learned. Not when I was little, I would say. First, I learned how to eat like a Japanese person when I was living in Hawaii, because heavy Japanese culture there. But when I was a kid, there is sometimes noise happens. Noise happens when we eat. But if it's too loud, I will get scolded by my parents for sure. Especially in a really big holiday occasion like Chinese New Year, when there's like 20 or 30 people eating around the table, like the round table thing, and all the relatives or friends gathering around. And as a kid, you have to show how well educated by your parent by not losing their faces.
Of
so
course.
you have to behave, eating proper gesture. Oh, there's one more thing. When we eat at the table, you don't bend your body, you don't bend your upper body to make your mouth close to the bowl. You take the bowl up and then you eat it that way. I'm not too sure if you guys can imagine it, but it's pretty much, you don't eat your bowl of rice with all kinds of delicacies with a bad posture. You have to be sitting straight and, well, not like a robot, but at least in a comfortable gesture for sure. But not bending you're not putting your chin on the table, or just being sloppy around when you eat. That's what I remember the most.
I totally hear you. I definitely agree with you about making sounds while you're eating. Generally, you want to keep your mouth closed and not sound like you're smacking peanut butter in your mouth.
Oh yeah, no way.
Right? So I definitely get that. The aspect of whether or not to pick up your bowl is a really interesting one. I know for a fact that in Japan, it's okay to pick up your rice bowl and, pick dishes from your table area and then kind of eat it with your rice. It's kind of understood. I don't know if I'm correct, but in Korea, that's generally frowned upon, and it's more common to leave your bowls and plates on the table and to take the food from there to your mouth instead.
That's what I was going to say, because I heard about the same thing too. The reason I heard is that they have spoon. They usually eat the rice with a spoon.
Yes.
So you can put the bowl on the table and use a spoon to scoop the rice for eating. So they don't usually pick it up. And I heard there is another way of saying, if there is any Korean audience, please let us know what you think in the comments. And if you know the information, if you know the knowledge about it, share with us, please. But I heard that if you pick up your bowl, it's like you feel like a beggar.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, only the beggar pick up their bowls, right? So
good point. And again, I would say probably in Western culture like the US, generally you probably don't pick up your bowl to eat. You usually use the utensils that are provided and then take the food to your mouth.
Right.
There is one rule that I generally don't do so well with, is elbows on the table. I know you're not supposed to put your elbows on a table, but sometimes you want to relax a little bit more.
But the only thing is that in Chinese Chinese food culture, you don't hide your arm or your hands underneath of the table either.
Really? Why is that?
Because you feel like you're not in the good posture of eating. You feel like you're hiding one with one shoulder lower than another, or, it's just not, I think it's just weird in a way.
Okay.
To reflect what you said, I don't put my elbows on the table either, but I put my arm on the table.
Your forearms, yes.
My forearm, yeah. Yeah.
That's generally, right, just to rest it for a bit.
Right. But how about you? How about in Japan? What did you notice about the food culture?
Well, generally when you're eating here, you have a few dishes that are yours. For example, your rice, maybe your miso soup, for example. But many of the other dishes are shared items. One word we use commonly is okazu, and that could be something like, some fried chicken or some meat or maybe some tofu or a stir fry, and then you take from that plate, add it to your own side plate or bowl, and you eat that with your other independent dishes, rice, soup, for example. That's quite common, at least for Japanese style cuisine. Some other things we do is we say a phrase at the beginning called itadakimasu.
What is that about?
that essentially just means that you are, receiving the food and, being thankful for it, for example. And then there's an ending phrase at the end, gochiso sama, or more polite form would be gochiso sama deshita, to say you're done with the meal, you're giving thanks for the dishes that you consumed. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. When I was living in a homestay family, my homestay mother was Japanese, a first generation Japanese. So actually what I learned from her is that we actually said itadakimasu right before every dinner, every single day. Yeah, that's what I learned.
You know what's interesting? This past winter, I visited my father in Virginia. And he lives near his sister and her husband. And, they're quite Western, probably similar to an upbringing of Christian family. But when they eat, at least my recent experience, they actually say itadakimasu before they eat. I was so surprised. I don't know, because typically you would expect, maybe a traditional Caucasian family in the U.S. to maybe say something, giving grace, thank you for this meal we're about to receive, something along those lines. But to hear them say itadakimasu was such wow. I didn't expect it.
That's weird, right?
Yeah,
I didn't expect it.
I know my father lived in Japan, so there's some cultural influence there. But, that was a while ago. So I was quite surprised.
Maybe he's still adopting it.
Yeah, which is great. And, for that matter, I know that in Korea, and please pardon my pronunciation, they say something like gomopsumida or something along those lines, which I think has a similar meaning where you're about to receive the food and you're giving thanks.
Maybe it's influenced. It's totally related. Right. So since we talk about what we have been experienced, let's talk about what you think the strangest or the funniest or the most confusing food experience that you had before when you were around. What do you think?
I can definitely think of some strange dishes I've had. I think sometimes the expectations, especially when you're with a new group of people and you don't want to be disrespectful of their customs and cultures. So you do your best to follow their lead. The experience that's popping into my head right now is when I visited you in Taiwan during Chinese New Year's.
Yeah, that was a good time.
I believe it was a family lunch, if I'm not mistaken. It was
around a really big table, right?
Yeah, and it had one of those round circular things. I think it's called a Lazy Susan.
That's right.
In English, but just a very large version of that.
Yeah, I think that was at least a meter or 1.5 of diameter. Was it?
That's pretty big. Yeah.
That was pretty big.
That sounds about right. There's a lot of dishes on there.
So you feel that was quite strangest, or I don't know, or just new, or it's just probably new to you?
I feel like that was the first time I went to a traditional Chinese New Year lunch with family.
Okay.
And some of the dishes I had seen before. One in particular is memorable just because of what the product was. It was, if I recall, it looked like a regular creamy chicken soup. And what I thought inside was these large white lima beans. And in fact, they were not a bean.
Not at all.
And
not at all.
I think, you and maybe one of your uncles was like, oh yeah, please try. You looked a little hesitant, but I went ahead and, scooped a little bit into my bowl, and the broth tasted great. I think there was green onions, bits of chicken, but the bean thing, I wasn't sure what it was. So I, put it in my mouth, bit into it, and it didn't have that texture of a bean, but instead popped. Yes.
You popped the big time.
It popped big time. And then I asked you, what is this? I don't know what I'm eating. And afterwards, you told me what it was. And what was it, John?
It was a chicken testicle. I had it when I was little, maybe around 9-10 years old. It is considered as a really, male delicacy. Well, you can say female delicacy too, because it's full of hormone, right?
I see.
So people eat it for in the cold winter. You can actually, get your body to get filled up and get all the calories in your body. So that's why people eat it. Especially they cook it with the sesame oil. Oh my God, that's it smells good, but I never ate one after when I was 11. So I refused to eat it. That's why I pushed Case to eat it at that time. because I knew that he never tried it before. And so, but one of my cousins, he loves it. He loves it. Like he could eat like a whole pot of it.
Oh my goodness, that's quite something.
That was a sacrifice of, I don't know, a dozen of chicken or something.
Oh my gosh. So now here's the thing, right? After or while I was eating it, of course, everyone's looking at my reaction. And of course, that is definitely a situation to be polite and slightly humorous and saying, oh, delicious, especially after finding out what it was.
Right.
And I don't know how that happened, but I ended up having one more after knowing what it was, and also enticing Jon here to have one with me.
But I refused it.
I'm pretty sure you ate one with me afterwards.
Did I? Really?
I'm 99% sure you had the second one with me.
That must be a nightmare. That's why I didn't remember it. Yeah, because I actually hate it afterwards. I think I only had maybe one or two when I was little, but that's it. I did not really like it. Yeah. Yeah, if you're a Taiwanese person, sure that you know what I'm talking about. People eat it, especially with sesame oil, and they actually eat it a lot over here.
I see. Yeah, another popular dish in Japan is fish sperm called shirako. Just the other night, I was buying a package of sashimi, and right next to it is usually a package of this, white gelatin, which is, fish sperm, and they have it with like a little bit of lemon or some shoyu or ponzu, and it's served cold. And it's actually quite delicious, a little bit sweet. Yeah. Have you tried it before, Jon?
Yeah, I loved it.
It's good. Okay.
I loved it. It's good. It's way better than chicken testicle for sure.
That is true. It goes down much easier.
Yeah.
How about you, man? Any bizarre food experiences?
Well, my experience is probably not as amazing as yours. But it is something that I'm not too sure if all of you guys have tried it, but I'm sure Case and I had it before. So back in Hawaii, there is a food called poi. I'm sure you remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So poi is actually a traditional Hawaiian food that is a paste made from a pounded taro root. So it can be eaten fresh or fermented. If it's fermented, it's kind of a sour for sure. If it's not, it's just like I wouldn't call it gooey, but it's kind of sticky pudding, sticky jelly kind of a thing. And it's made by taro, like I mentioned. When I first ate it, I did not know what it was, but the very first poi I tried was fermented. So I did not, so that the sourness it really impacted me. Back in Taiwan, before I moved to Hawaii, I did not eat much of a sour food, especially fermented sour food.
Okay.
So I first thought the poi it gone bad. I thought it was something that actually served bad. So I started to question about like what it is or something like that. And the family I live with explained to me well about what poi is. And I started to get comfortable eating that. That's considered as traditional Hawaiian food, not influenced by Japanese or not Korean, either Chinese, but it's a Hawaiian food. That's what the indigenous Hawaiian people used to eat. Right.
While I was working at the university in Hawaii and we had different groups of students come visit, we definitely tried to teach them some Hawaiian traditional culture. And we did a food tasting with kalua pork and poi. And it is very interesting how they react to trying poi for the first time. Typically, it really depends on the first person. So if there's a class of 20 students, whether or not they're elementary or high school, if the first person says, hey, this isn't too bad, then everyone else kind of like, yeah, it's good. But if the first person says like, it's so sour, it's so weird, I don't like it, then everyone else follows suit, right? But it was very important to teach them that when you eat poi, it's generally almost tasteless. And for that reason, you want to have it with something savory or sweet. Hence why we serve it with kalua pork, which is quite salty in general. And so by having it together, it's a match made in heaven.
But you mentioned about sweet. I never tasted poi with the sweetness before.
Sweet coconut milk or jelly.
But that wouldn't be poi though. That would be some taro filling in the bun or in the bread whatsoever.
Could. Yeah, a lot of people will enjoy it with something sweet like sweet coconut milk or sweet coconut rice on the side. Yeah. Or maybe even some fruits, for example.
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah. Everything Everything goes. And another thing that I tried in for the Hawaiian cuisine was called lao lao.
Yes.
Lao lao was the thing that I tried it, and I know a lot of people probably didn't like it, but I like it. I love to eat lao lao. The only thing that I had to overcome was the taste and then the smell of the leaf. So basically, lao lao is a pork or fish that wrapped in the taro leaves and steam until it's tender. So you don't peel the leaves and eat the pork or fish inside. You eat the meat with the leaf, for your guys' information. So when I first ate it, I knew the leaf have some kind of taste, so I had to overcome that. But before, I thought it was just eating the pork and fish, so it was kind of a shocking in the first place.
There is definitely some exotic foods out there, and we're only talking about a small portion of the world here around the Pacific, but I would love to have a chance to just travel the world and try different cuisines out there. Another one I have to mention is I was visiting South Korea with a good friend from university, and he took me to a few places, one of which was a red soup with different vegetables, and it was generally spicy. The protein inside was silk bugs. They were a little bit soggy in texture, but it was really the first time I was having insects of that size. I had tried crickets before, which are, small and crunchy. Soggy bugs in a hot soup was definitely a first-time experience.
Whoa.
I would say the flavor was pretty good. It was savory, kind of like an earthy broth. He explained that, generally it's like a street food and you have it with some alcoholic drinks, but it's definitely a texture I'll always remember.
Will you eat it one more time if you have a chance?
I don't know. Maybe after a few drinks. And if I'm feeling a bit chilly and I want something to really warm me up, I would use that.
Would you rather eat that or chicken testicle?
Oh, man.
I'm on you, bro. I'm on you.
I can't answer that right now.
Yeah, let me know. If you choose chicken testicle, you're on it. You're on it.
Well,
yeah.
I want to bring the conversation in a little bit different direction, not around food itself, but about table manners and just the general cultural expectations around mealtime before and after. There's one quick story I want to share is while in university, I signed up for an experience to have a traditional Western kind of fine dining eating etiquette experience. It was through the business college, and we all gathered to this restaurant, about 20 of us, and we sat down and, there was 10 plus different silverware on our table, a lot of dishes, several glasses, and everything was in a precise location. They served us several dishes such as bread and butter, appetizer, soup, entree, and then just kind of as the meal went on, told us exactly what we should be doing. And it was a really interesting experience to see how you're expected to eat at a fine dining establishment. And that in itself is such a cultural experience.
Fine dining. What do you think about fine dining?
Definitely different from street food that you might, just grab and go, right?
Of course. Yeah.
I told you the other day, right, when I was in Virginia, we were in a bit of a rush, so we went to Chipotle, and I just grabbed the, big burrito, and I was driving for the next hour, with one hand, while on the other hand, just chewing on my burrito as I went, which is one of the farthest things you can do from fine dining.
That is definitely not fine dining for sure. Yeah. But how do you think that food connect to people in a culture? Like you said, in fine dining culture, people don't usually, walk and eat. This is that is the culture that people don't do. But grabbing a food from Chipotle or In-N-Out Burger or whatsoever, you grab and go and eat it when you walk till the next destination. But what do you think about it? I mean, do they really connect to people in the culture though?
I think so. So I want to maybe compare the US and China in this instance and say that typically in the US, whenever I'm going to a meal with other people, we usually order our own dish. We might share an appetizer or two, but generally the main dish is yours. And you share a bite with somebody if you want to, but that's generally the way it is. However, maybe in China, it's more common to have several dishes that are shared among the people who are there. And feel like it maybe this culture of sharing maybe brings people a little bit more closer and sparks conversation a little bit easier instead of just being focused on your own individual meal.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But in the U.S., we don't. We do not share any. We hardly share food, right?
Not that often. Since we was hanging around more of a group of people from Asia, we would pick restaurants like Buffalo Wild Wings, where you do order a bunch of wings and share it amongst everyone.
That's the exception, yeah.
Right, but if I went with a group of friends who are more from a Western culture, we typically chose places where we ordered our own meal. Mm-hmm. And the interesting part is when we went with a mixed group of people, there was a lot of discussion at the beginning of like how we're going to order.
That's right. Yeah, that always happens.
Yeah, so I think it really does shape, especially food culture.
But well, for me too, as a foreigner or outsider, for one of the places, does it change your behavior? Does it change your behavior to eat your food with other people in certain countries, or how you adopt this?
I would say if I'm in a Western scenario and kind of focusing on my own food, I might generally speak a little bit less at the dinner table. Whereas if I'm with a group and we're sharing, I'm like, oh, hey, could you grab that for me? And then while that transition is happening, I ask them if I could get them something, maybe a chance to pour them some of their drink, and maybe even have a little conversation while the dish that I want is coming to me. And it creates more space to open new dialogues.
Yeah. So for me, when I come back to Taiwan, I sort of got that sharing habits back with my friends. Right. Because back in the day, we did not share any food, hardly share any food in Hawaii. So sometimes when, if you're hanging out with a girl or you have a girlfriend or wife, they sometimes want the food on your plate, and then you share, right? So I started to get used to it and started to adopt some of the sharing culture in Taiwan, which people can order a lot of food on the table, and then we just take bites from the plate in the middle. Mm-hmm. Yeah, mm-hmm. That's what I do. So, but do you think that food reflect the personality, value, and lifestyle of the culture? Like, what do you see about this? How the food can stand for the culture, such as kimchi would stand for Korea, or sushi or miso soup would stand for Japan.
I don't know about the actual food item, whether it's like kimchi or sushi, but I think the way the meal happens is a little bit different. If I'm having a meal in the US, let's say it's a roast chicken salad, for example, somebody might ask me, oh, how's your roast chicken salad? I can either respond by saying, oh, it's good, it's delicious, I'm enjoying it, thank you, how about yours? Or I can, say, would you like a bite, for example. But if I'm in a culture where we're all sharing the same food, I'm not going to be asking that question, right? Because we all know what we're eating. We're all eating the same thing together, right? We're in this together. And hence it kind of cultivates that more collective group culture where we're doing things together. It promotes maybe stronger teamwork, for example. Mm-hmm. Instead of ordering my own cocktail or my own drink, we'll order a few bottles of something and share it together. Exactly. And I think we're, stretching things here, but I think there's some truth in that it does reflect a little bit of the actual culture and how people behave.
Right. Yeah. I always think that comfort food is actually something that brings people home. And it's usually something that can actually emphasize a person's background, especially whether they share the food or not, to be honest.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I want to bring us over to this other question and ask you if you agree or not about this idea that food shapes who we are, physically, culturally, and socially. Do you think it really depends on the situation, whether or not it's a family dinner or a friend's dinner or a formal event that kind of shapes how we interact with food in that environment?
Oh, yeah, definitely. In Taiwan, hierarchy shows more at the formal meals. So we let the elders eat first. Or some of the formal events like the business luncheon, we let a higher position person, managers or director, we let them to start the luncheon. They'll have a few words to share, or if they tend to order the food for the whole table, something like that, we just let them do their thing. And not to mention for the family is a little bit casual. And friends is, of course, is the most casual thing. So we do that with no rules. We just, talk stories, chit chatting or something like that. So it happens, and it's really shaped who we are. I think at least who I am, among different situations.
I see. Are there any certain, I don't know, gestures or, things you just don't do with the tools you have at the table? I know, for example, in Korea, when you pour some drink for your elder, you usually support your elbow and pour for them. It's just the way you handle that particular item that's on the dinner table.
I think that's more of a drinking manner. I think for the food, because most of the Chinese people use chopsticks.
Okay.
And it is really matter not using the chopstick as a fork. I don't know if you don't. I don't know if you understand this. So you use chopstick to pick the food up, but you don't use a chopstick to use it as a fork to poke the food and put it in your mouth.
Right. You don't want to stab your food with the chopsticks. That's more of a fork kind of thing, right?
Right. Yeah. And I know a lot of Chinese people are so proud of using chopsticks. I don't, but I think a lot of people think chopsticks can pick every food up, easy.
They are versatile.
They are skillful like that, but I'm not.
I tried to get a little bit better, but yeah. I mean, it takes time to get adept with using chopsticks, or hashi in Japanese.
Right. Oh, talk about hashi. I heard about there is a relationship in between what you had said in the beginning, itadakimasu, and the word hashi. I think it's mainly for chopsticks. So can you share that with us?
Of course, yeah. It's not my story per se, but something I've heard in the past. So chopsticks in Japanese is pronounced hashi. And there's another vocabulary, bridge, where you walk across, a river or something. That kind of bridge is also pronounced hashi in Japanese. So it's the same word, different character. The chopstick is a bridge that connects what has given its life, whether it's an animal or a plant, to you to sustain your life. So that's why the hashi is a mirror for a bridge in that sense, connecting what has deceased to you, which is living.
Wow.
So it's almost spiritual in some ways. And that's why when you say itadakimasu at the beginning of the meal, you're accepting, you're receiving that energy, that life. And at the end, you say gochiso-sama and thank that life, those nutrients you received. So that's the story behind it.
And you also show the appreciation to the provider, for the food provider.
Of course, who prepared the meal for you as well.
Right,
and
right.
There's one more aspect of chopsticks that are pretty interesting. It depends sometimes on a setting, but if you have a bunch of shared food, how do you take that food from that shared plate to your plate? Especially if you've already put the chopsticks in your mouth at some point.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Typically, sometimes there might be other utensils on those plates, like a scooping spoon or some other chopsticks to take it. But in some situations, there isn't extra utensils. And in those situations, use the opposite end of your chopsticks.
I don't think we did that back in the States because fork or spoon, there's only one side of it. But chopsticks have two sides you can use.
So in that sense, they're very universal.
That actually happened in Taiwan too, because of my parents really cared about that. Yeah, they always use the opposite side for grabbing the food or picking up the food to other people.
Right. Well, I want to talk about leaving food behind on your plate at the end of a meal. Whether you do it or don't do it, what does it mean to leave that food behind?
In Taiwan, we usually, it depends on if we can finish it or not, but it is okay to leave food on the table if you can't finish it. How about Japan?
Typically, the portions are smaller, so it's quite rare to leave food behind. And generally, I think it's frowned upon to leave food. You should finish your meal because, again, it's life on your plate. And to give full respect to it, you finish it. Mm-hmm.
So it's actually gesture to the food provider saying that, oh, okay,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I appreciate what you had prepared, something like that.
Right. Even if you were having ramen, you would try to, even drink a good portion of the soup broth that was made for you. Because, I mean, a lot of work goes into that dashi, that soup. So you don't want
hours and hours.
So you don't finish the noodles and the toppings and call it quits. You enjoy some of that soup at the end as well. You don't have to, finish everything, but generally you want to, give it a good shot.
But is that the reason why they always write some like nice words on the bottom of the bowl? Saying thank you or something because you finished the soup?
I don't know if I've seen those, but maybe I need to work a little bit harder to get to the bottom of the bowl.
Yeah, because I read that. I read that when I was eating at Ichiran.
I see.
Yeah, they have that. But talking about leaving food, back in the States, we usually ask the restaurant waitress or waiter to give us the lunchbox and doggy bag.
The doggy bag, the carry out, right? Not carry out, the take home, right? The
take home, yeah. Well, we have that in Taiwan. I don't remember or I don't recall any restaurant that doesn't have it. But how about in Japan?
I feel like it's becoming a little bit more common, but generally it's not always provided. And the reason is simple. The restaurant makes this food for that moment for you to eat at that right temperature. And it might not taste the same the next day, for example. And, the thinking is if you have it the next day and it wasn't as good, it might subconsciously make you think, maybe I might not go back to that restaurant because the food wasn't as good as I thought it would be, when in fact the food you had wasn't the way they intended it to be served. Of course, it's, if you think about it, logically, that doesn't make any sense, but they want your last impression of the food to be the way they intend it. And hence, by not allowing a doggy bag, you're forced to leave the food behind, and hence, you likely are to finish it if you can. Whereas in the States, it's very common to have a doggy bag, especially since the portions are so large.
I know.
So it's almost like they intentionally make the portions larger, thinking that you'll take some home.
Of course, especially you go to Texas. I mean, if I do go, I go right away. When I sit down, I'll ask for a lunchbox right away before I order. Yeah, because it's too much. Yeah, definitely. I think in Taiwan, we not only have we always have a doggy bag or take out box. If we can't finish the food, but I think it is okay because we already know that the food is going to be a different texture if we reheat it. So I think it is okay. It's really not that we will misunderstand or blame on the cook or blame on the restaurant that the food has gone into a different taste or different texture. As long as it's not bad before the food goes bad, and it is okay for us to reheat it and eat it afterwards. I think it is okay over here in Taiwan.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. It's fine.
Right. So I think if you guys have different, takeout culture, or if it's the same or it's similar, let us know. Definitely let us know for sure in the comments, that we want to know where you're from and what your food culture is. So before we end, I have one last question for you.
Sure.
So what food eating experience or country is at the top of your wanna try list?
Oh man, if I had to pick something right now, I want to go to the Mediterranean, maybe to Greece, and just try an authentic Greek salad there. Just the whole kitchen sink. I just love that taste of the red olives, the feta cheese. It just feels so fresh too.
Wow, interesting.
How about you?
For me, it's Northern Europe.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like they have some food that I never tried it. Yeah. I know they have some frozen food for sure because it's always cold over there. I'm not too sure if I won't misunderstand their culture, but I just think that they have a different way of cooking, or at least a different way of seasoning over there that I want to try. Norway, Finland, or Sweden. Well, I can always go to IKEA for Sweden food. But that's actually not what I want. I want to
Smash
actually go
meatballs.
there and then try the local food.
I hear you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it was one of Anthony Bourdain's shows, either Parts Unknown or No Reservations. He went to Iceland and tried a traditional Icelandic dinner or feast. It was some bizarre food on that plate, I'll tell you that much.
Really? Wow.
There was a head of a goat or something and some gelatinized innards. I mean, I understand it was probably rough going when they first settled in Iceland. So you can definitely see that they pretty much didn't waste anything.
Yeah, because in that extreme and then bizarre weather condition, you gotta eat whatever you have, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm sure this episode is not going to be the last one. We're talking about food. Probably going to talk more about food later on. But this is actually what we have been experienced, what we have had in our lives so far. And I'm sure this is only a part of the food culture or the food-related things that we've experienced so far in our lives. There are so many and so much that we haven't met, we haven't experienced before. So we so encourage you guys to share your culture, your food culture, your background with us in the comments and let us know what we had missed or what we had never experienced, or if there is something wrong or maybe a different things that we experience is different from you. Just let us know in the comments, please. And so, right, this is for today. Go grab your local delicacy, and that is closest to you right now. Thanks for listening to this episode. We will see you next time.
Shoots!